All right, welcome back to First Team Fantasy, and we had a pretty wild game last night. The Bucks went into Buffalo and lost 24-18. Probably one of the wilder drives, that second to last drive for the Bucks that I've seen in a while. 2 penalties on fourth down to keep the drive alive, and then a crazy Mike Evans touchdown followed up by a crazy K-Dot and 2-point conversion. Um, it took almost the whole of the fourth quarter, so the Bucks ended up losing and still somehow almost ended up winning because Chris Godwin, if he had just seen that ball, would have caught the Hail Mary. Great pass by Baker Mayfield, but that's just how it falls. I mean, can't really count on the last play of the game to win.
No.
Said in the preview that if you were kind of needing a quarterback, I didn't hate starting Baker Mayfield in this one, and he came through fantasy-wise, 25 for 42, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 rushes for 19 yards, no turnovers this game, 21.38 fantasy points, and I mean, we haven't, unfortunately, this year seen a whole lot of eclipsing the 20-point mark by quarterbacks. It's been kind of disappointing for a lot of them. So this was good to see from Baker against, I mean, this Buffalo defense has been kind of reeling from being one of like the better fantasy defenses or defenses in general. They've been giving up a lot. I mean, we saw what they gave up to the Patriots last week. This week, I mean, Rachaad White, still inefficient on the ground, 9 attempts for 39 yards. But like we said, there was that really good target share he had last week, and we saw what they gave up to Ramondre Stevenson, those 6 catches. And Rachaad White ended up getting 7 targets, caught them all for 70 yards. He had 17.9 PPR points. He was someone that I thought was a good start, ended up coming through.
Yeah.
Might end up being one of the better RB finishes on the week. Mike Evans, I don't understand. He didn't get targeted too much in this one for the longest part of this game. He had 1 7-yard catch. So it was like almost depressing for Mike Evans managers. And then he catches a touchdown at like the very last gasp of the game. And that saved him. He caught one more pass on the final drive, which ended up going nowhere. So he finished with 3 catches on 6 targets for 39 yards and a touchdown, 12.9 PPR points. I mean, it did not kill you at all. It's about what he was projected this week, but my God, it was very, very close. Chris Godwin, if you didn't start him this week, I don't know why. Said that he was a great start, especially after seeing what Kendrick Bourne did to this defense last week. He finished, he had 1 rush attempt for 14 yards, 5 catches on 7 targets, 54 yards, typical Chris Godwin stuff, and he got a touchdown this time. So he finished with 17.8 PPR points, and then this was a great Chris Godwin start. I mean, we know he's going to get around 5 catches, 50 yards. He's kind of like Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Get kind of that same production every week. If he happens to break one, that's the difference between him and Michael Thomas, is a bit of speed. So we saw him, take shorter catches, and he was wide open, ran for about 15, 20 more yards. And yeah, I mean, it was a good game for Chris Godwin. I'd expect to see more stat lines like this throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah.
K-Dotton said could be a good start. We saw what the Patriots tight ends did against them. We saw what Noah Fant did with 8.1 points in week 3, and he finished with 8.7. Like I said, he's out there over 90% of the time, played 97% of the snaps, caught 4 passes on 6 targets, 27 yards, also got a 2-point conversion. Has a tight end. You can't be mad at it. And finishing 8 to 10 points from a tight end, it's not going to kill you. Unless, you played Dalton Kincaid this week, then that might hurt a little bit. Their kicker, McLaughlin, made 1 of 2 field goals.
That first one was terrible.
The first one did get blocked.
I know.
Because the Bills defense got credited with the blocked field goal, but yeah, it was hard to tell if it got blocked or if it was just one of the worst kicks we'd ever seen. But it did get blocked. He made one extra point, so he finished with 6 points, and that's a decent day for a kicker, I guess. Bucks defense finished with 4. Like I said, really didn't feel comfortable starting them in this one, and that's all I got for the Bucks.
Yeah, no, I mean, the guys you were going to start fantasy-wise, I mean, they had solid weeks. Rashad had a very solid week. We saw Chase Edmonds return. Was curious to see to what capacity. Again, it was his first game back. He only played 12% of snaps. I don't see him as like, and I don't know what it was also. It seemed like every time he got the ball, he slipped. Like legitimately every single time Chase Edmonds touched the ball, he slipped.
Yeah.
I don't.
Like, Rachaad White played 82% of the snaps. That was one thing that I've said, is that I'm not worried about him losing volume. And even if, Chase Edmonds comes in and gets a couple carries, Rachaad White, the running back, is not who we like. Rachaad White, the pass catcher, that's what we're here for. Because, 9 attempts for 39. We don't ever see efficient days out of him or from him on the ground anyways. So it's like if Chase Edmonds gets in there for a couple carries, then
whatever.
Yeah.
No, and last thing, I cannot remember another Hail Mary I've seen at the end of a game that does not get touched. That goes to the end zone, does not even get batted or anything. It just falls to the ground in the end zone. It was just kind of crazy.
Apparently, they let DBs just tackle receivers on the last play of the game now. Because, if you go back and watch that, Chris Godwin was getting tackled as that he's spinning around because the guy's tackling him. I think it was Poyer. Yeah. And Mike Evans has 2 guys draped all over. It's like, okay, I get you don't want to end the game with a flat, but you guys do it all the time. So why the hell are you not going to call the most obvious pass interference in the world? But, that's how it goes.
Yeah. No, and then, to take it to the Bills side of the ball, if Josh Allen, he's Josh Allen, 31 of 40, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick. He has a turnover almost every game, it seems like. Whether it's a fumble or an interception doesn't matter, because he also ran 7 carries, 41 yards, a touchdown, 30.06 fantasy points. He's the QB1 fantasy-wise. He's probably going to finish as so. It's Josh Allen. He's going to give you 20 at least every single week. If not 25,
Even
30.
on a bad game like how we saw against the Jags, he still came through fantasy-wise.
Yeah.
Even against the Patriots where they did trash, he still came through.
Yeah. And then, the receivers, Stephon Diggs, 9 catches, 70 yards, 12 targets, 16 fantasy points flat. Realistically, he could have got you a lot more. But 16 fantasy points, you're getting 9 targets on the low side for a guy like Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
And then now that Dawson Knox is gone for the foreseeable future, there's just a little bit more for him. Solid fantasy week. Gabe Davis, a guy that was coming off a 5-point fantasy finish and then a 1-point fantasy finish. Like we said, he's extremely boom or bust. The thing that really boomed for him this game was not only his season high in targets, but also season high in catches. 9 catches, 87 yards, 12 targets, a touchdown, 23.7 fantasy points. Just a monster week. He was the highest scorer on the Bills outside of Josh Allen. And it was a week where we didn't just see Gabe Davis getting red zone looks. At one point, I'm pretty sure in the first half, he was 4 or 5 catches, 50 yards, hadn't dropped a target. It was just a really efficient game for him. And really all the pass catchers. Kincaid, with no knocks, is looking amazing. 5 catches, 65 yards, a touchdown, 7 targets, played 84% of snaps, and that's what we talked about. He's going to get up to at least 75-80%, and that's what happened. 17.5 fantasy points. The guy I was most surprised by was Khalil Shakir. And again, with no knocks though, now they're running more 3 receiver sets instead of 2 receiver, 2 tight end. He had 6 catches for 92 yards on 6 targets, 15.2 fantasy points. The biggest thing for me was he played 65% of snaps. coming into this game. His highest was 39%. So at the very least, he is going to be on the field a lot more.
Yeah.
How I really feel about him fantasy-wise, I'm not like sold or anything, but it was a solid game
I
and a
mean,
very high-powered offense.
to draw a comparison, I think if you like want to go back to Cole Beasley on the Bills and the usage he got, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
he's that slot receiver that, playing the Cole Beasley role. So there was value in that. And as long as Knox is out and, they don't have both the tight ends out there, I think there might be some value in Khalil Shakir. It's somewhat similar to the Rashid Shaheeds and the guys of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, to finish out the offense, James Cook. It was a tough week for him. I mean, 14 carries, 67 yards isn't terrible, but he only saw one target through the air, which he caught for 6 yards, 8.3 fantasy points. His snap share actually went up to 67%. Latavius Murray went down to 33%. Latavius spells him, especially at the goal line, but it's just
Yeah.
Latavius just doesn't look good. And that's the frustrating part. And then this game, I mean, 67% is a solid amount for him to be out there. His usage just was not that high. And I mean, it's frustrating when you see Khalil Shakir get 6 catches on 6 targets and James Cook's getting 1 target out the backfield. So I mean,
Yeah.
8.3 fantasy points. He's had games like this before. I don't want to say become normal, but if he doesn't bust a big catch through the air, it kind of seems like he's going to finish in that 7 to 10 point range.
Yeah. I mean, in trying to figure out this Bills offense has become one of the more difficult things outside of, you're starting Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. And at this point, I think it's easy to trust Dalton Kincaid. With James Cook, the things that hurt him are their refusal to use him inside of the 10-yard line. They put Latavius Murray in on a lot of obvious pass situations because they feel and he might be the better pass blocker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mainly those two things because, if his targets aren't up at all. I mean, how many does he have in the last? Here, let me take a look.
For James Cook?
Yeah, in the past 3 games,
He has
his
4 targets total.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like when you're not getting the goal line work, you're not getting targets out of the backfield. I mean, he's been running fairly efficiently, toting over 4 yards per carry the last 3 games, but it's just hard. When you have 1 touchdown on the year, rushing.
Yeah, and 1 receiving, 2
1
touchdowns total.
receiving.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, damn, man, it's really hard. I mean, you're kind of in a position where you're starting James Cook, but it's tough because he isn't getting any of the usage that he should be getting, because you watch them play and it's not just Latavius Murray's so inefficient on the goal. It's like as soon as he gets touched, they handed it to him on 3rd and goal and he ran straight into the pile and that was it. They handed it to him on a 2nd and goal and tried to run outside. He got not
That's
even
a
a
terrible
half a
idea.
yard.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to do that, why not just put James Cook in? The guy has enough speed where he could break out, bounce it to the outside. He's the one who could take the outside run into the end zone. But that's why I'm saying it's so hard. And then you have the Gabe Davis thing. This week, he gets great volume. Last week, he didn't get any.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like from week to week, it's so hard to tell outside of the main cogs in the wheel what's going to happen with this Bills offense, and it's irritating.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And just to finish it off quickly, Tyler Bass was the guy I talked about moving on from. He only had 6 fantasy points in this game. His past 4 weeks are 2, 0, 4, and 6. If you did not move on from him,
37-yard field goal.
yeah, it's time to move on from Tyler Bass. And the Bills' defense, they had double digits for the first 5 weeks. Their past 3, which 2 of the 3 against mediocre offenses, against the Giants 7, against the Patriots 3, against the Bucs 6. They will travel to Cincinnati and then play the Broncos and Jets. I kind of like those matchups, but then they'll play Philadelphia and then the Chiefs and then the Cowboys. It's just I don't know, there may be better defenses out there for the coming weeks, and they're not so dominant, the Bills defense, that I just feel comfortable holding them no matter what.
Yeah. I'd not just move on from them, but I'd stream other defenses at this point. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, but if we're done with that one, do you want to move right into the injury report?
Yep, right into the injury report. I'm going to go game by game. Some games have a lot less activity. Like, for example, started off with the Rams at the Cowboys. There's nothing really notable here. Obviously, we know Kyron on the injured reserve, which means Darrell Henderson has been taking the lead snaps there. Vikings Packers, the TJ Hawkinson with a foot injury. He practiced in limited fashion on Thursday on the Packers side of the ball. Aaron Jones is still limited with that hamstring injury. That is something to heavily monitor. TJ Hawkinson, I think, will be fine, but Aaron Jones, I am very worried about that.
It very well could be another A.J. Dillon week, hearing that.
I don't feel comfortable starting Aaron Jones this week until he shows me that he's going to give me at least 60% of the snaps. Luke Musgrave did not practice Thursday with an ankle injury. That is something to monitor as well. For the Titans and Falcons, obviously Ryan Tannehill is not expected to play this week. Worth mentioning because you have Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins. It's going to be
a tough defense.
Yeah, they are playing the Falcons. It is going to be ugly. The Saints and the Colts. Jimmy Graham was limited with an illness. Juwan Johnson was limited with a calf injury. And then also, I know Taysom Hill was also limited with a chest injury. On the Colts side of the ball, Zach Moss was limited with an elbow and a heel injury. Kylan Granson, concussion he sustained week 6. He is still non-contact on Friday. That makes me think he will not clear in time.
It's like Roshan.
Yeah, it's like Roshan, so I expect him to miss again. But again, we'll have to keep track of that, but it just does not look good as of now. For the Patriots and the Dolphins, Hunter Henry, limited participant on Thursday. Again, he's not really a guy I'm looking to start at this point. And then the Dolphins have some big names. Tyreek Hill, limited practice on Thursday. Expect him to play, though. Jalen Waddle with that back injury was also a limited participant, and Raheem Mostert with the ankle was also a limited participant. So some big names there. The Giants and the Jets. Randall Cobb is back at practice for the Jets. For the Giants, Wan'Dale Robinson practiced limited Thursday with a knee injury. Darren Waller with a hamstring, limited. Saquon Barkley with an elbow, limited. Daniel Jones still not cleared for contact. He's a limited participant, but again, with a neck injury, not being cleared for contact. We're already at Friday now. It's going to be Tyrod again, more than likely. The Jaguars and
with
Steelers.
Tyrod, we know he's going to throw the ball to
Darren Waller. No, and that's true because we only look at Saquon. We only look at Saquon and Darren Waller. Saquon, if he plays, we're starting. Darren Waller after a big week, yeah, that actually might be better for him with Tyrod. So that could be a positive for fantasy owners. Jaguars Steelers. Trevor Lawrence with that knee injury still limited. Played last week. They expect him to play. Zay Jones will be out for this week with that knee injury. So that's good news for Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and I guess Calvin Ridley owners.
If there's going to be a week, Steelers have a terrible pass defense. If there's going to be a week.
Yeah. Deontay Johnson did not practice Thursday, but I believe he's logging a limited practice today.
That's good. Because isn't it the same hamstring that he was on IR for?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Yes, he's present for practice today, so he did not practice yesterday, but he did practice today, so he does seem like he is trending towards playing, but yeah, worth monitoring because it is that same hamstring.
Yeah, that could be brutal if he misses for
Yeah.
a lot of people.
Yeah. Eagles at Commanders. No Eagles injuries. The Commanders is just Curtis Samuel limited Thursday with a foot injury, but he is expected to play. Texans at Panthers. Robert Woods did not practice Thursday with a foot injury. If he does not play, that's big for Tank Dell, Nico Collins. And then on the Panthers side of the ball, I mean, Laviska Shenault didn't participate Thursday with an ankle injury. Not a guy we're looking at, really. Browns Seahawks, David Njoku with a knee injury was limited. Jerome Ford, they say they were surprised with how good he was running on that ankle, something to heavily monitor. He is now questionable. Even if he does go, how much he'll be able to with, Kareem Hunt and Pierre Strong also in that backfield. That's something to heavily monitor going into this game.
I wouldn't really count on starting Jerome Ford this week.
No.
Seattle's got. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Deshaun just ruled out officially, so it will be PJ Walker again. Tyler Lockett did not practice Thursday. Tyler Lockett with a hamstring did not practice Thursday. Ken Walker also did not practice Thursday with a calf injury. That's something worth heavily monitoring too. It could be Zach Charbonnet, but again, against the Browns, that's not very great. Chiefs and Broncos, Jerick McKinnon with a groin injury did not practice Thursday. On the Broncos side of the ball, nothing really worth noting. I mean, Brandon Johnson limited, that's whatever. Ravens at Cardinals. Keaton Mitchell was a limited participant on Thursday with that hamstring injury. Odell was also limited with a shoulder injury. And Kyler Murray is no longer listed on an injury report, but he does remain on the reserve physical unable to perform list. But that is worth noting. He's obviously not going to play this week, but the Kyler Murray return could be coming soon.
Imminent.
Yeah. Obviously, Zach Ertz is on the IR, so Trey McBride is now taking over Foley for that. The Bengals and Niners. Brock Purdy is going to miss this week with that concussion. It's going to be Sam Darnold. And Debo, with that shoulder injury, was spotted running off to the side during Thursday's practice. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan had already said he's going to miss this week, and then the bye, and then come back week 10. The Bears, Bears and the Chargers. We have Khalil Herbert set to return. He was listed as a full participant, so Roshan Johnson. So it's going to be Roshan Johnson and Deontay Foreman. Khalil Herbert is still on the IR with that high ankle sprain. Yeah, he has not returned. Justin Fields isn't practicing. He's expected to miss again. The Chargers, Gerald Everett was a limited participant Thursday with a hip injury. And Josh Palmer with a knee injury was not spotted at Thursday's practice. Could this be the week Quentin Johnston finally breaks through? We're going to have to see. Raiders and Lions. Jimmy G, it was a limited participant Thursday with that back injury. And David Montgomery did not practice Thursday with that rib injury. So that is something worth noting as well. We're going to have to monitor that. And we've talked about, if David Montgomery does play, we love his start. If he doesn't, we love Jahmyr Gibbs. Honestly, if Montgomery plays, I love both of them. The Raiders are so poverty against running backs. It's just either way. But
hell, if Montgomery doesn't play, I'm not even.
Don't say Craig Reynolds. You don't start Craig Reynolds, dude. Stop that right now. Stop that. Not Craig Reynolds. Have you seen, really quick before we get into the previews, did you see the clip of when Dan Campbell was talking about wanting to cut Craig Reynolds before the season? Yeah, he wanted to cut Craig Reynolds, and he was asking the other coaches about it, and the coaches were kind of like, because Dan Campbell's like, what does he bring to the team? And all the coaches were like, well, he's a great teammate, his work ethic and all that. And Dan Campbell's like, but what does he bring to the team? And they're just like, honestly, I think it would cause like a rise in the locker room, like if we cut this guy, because he's just so well liked. That's how he's holding on to his job. Dan Campbell didn't even want. I'd be so sad to be a player and see that from your coach. The other coaches are like, the other guys would just be pissed if we let him go, so we got to hold on to him. He's like, all right, I guess. So
I mean, you get to keep your job because you got the homies.
I know, literally. So,
Let's
but
go.
all right, you want to take
Um,
it into our first Sunday
no, I was
morning?
just gonna say the note on the injury report. It just in now that T.J. Hawkinson went from questionable to healthy. So
Yeah. TJ Hawkinson will play.
I mean, yeah, he'll play, but now it's just he is a full go. All right, into the first morning game, we have the Falcons heading over to Tennessee to take on Will Levis, Malik Willis, and the Tennessee Titans. Over under in this game is 36.5. Atlanta is favored by 2.5 points. I mean, they have when the head coach says they're going to use two quarterbacks.
It's disgusting. This isn't week 1 of the preseason.
Yeah, so it's going to be an ugly game. Falcons offense is only scoring 16.4 points per game, and that's 29th in the league. The Titans are only scoring 17.3, and that's 25th. And one of the teams is going to be using two backup quarterbacks. This is going to be ugly, guys. Yeah, so the Falcons are passing for 216 yards per game. Titans are giving up 237 pass yards per game. I think Drake London should be a great start in this one. I already have him as one of my starts of the week. In fantasy, the Titans defense is 15th against the pass. So, I mean, we'll see. He's the lead pass catcher. I think he'll have a good day. Desmond Ritter's been airing it out a little bit. Falcons are rushing for 124.3 yards per game, which is 8th in the league. And the Titans defense is giving up 110 rush yards per game. It's very hard to say at this point because in an interview, Arthur Smith said they plan on riding the hot hand. Well, the hot hand was apparently Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier ran the ball 21 times for 50. How 50 what? Let me see. So Tyler Algier ran the ball 21 times for 59 yards, averaging a whopping 2.8 yards per carry. And to Arthur Smith, that is apparently the hot hand. Whether we see another large share of the rushing for Tyler Algier in this game or Bijan, I don't know. But the Titans have been fairly stout against the run, even though they're 19th right now. That's mostly due to the game that the Ravens had against them. Lamar was able to rush the ball fairly well, as was Gus, and Justice had a few big runs also. I don't know how much success they're going to have rushing the ball. If Bijan's good, you're starting Bijan because whether or not he has success on the ground, he's a great pass catcher. Obviously, I don't like starting Tyler Algier, Cordero Patterson. I guess you could throw in Kyle Pitts or Johnny Smith this week. I don't really like it, honestly. I prefer just because they split too much, and with a tight end just splitting that much, and 216 passing yards per game. Granted, they're two of the top 3 pass catchers, but maybe this is a good week since Tennessee gives up so much, but I just don't like. I'd prefer not to start either one of them. I think there are better options out there.
Yeah.
Onto the Titans side of the ball, I don't think you can start DeAndre Hopkins this week. Unfortunately, I don't think you can start any pass catcher. I'd prefer not to start Tyjae Spears this week, and if you can avoid it, I'd prefer not to start Derrick Henry. It's going to be tough. This offense wasn't doing much in the first place with, Ryan Tannehill. They're only passing for 173 yards per game, which is 30th in the NFL. And yeah, the Falcons defense is only giving up 190 pass yards per game. I don't think that number will improve for the Titans with two backup quarterbacks. I don't see DeAndre Hopkins having a productive day. He did not do well against the Ravens, and most of that game they had their starting quarterback in. The Falcons are only giving up 95.3 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
Which the box is going to be stacked. They know they're going to be running the ball with Derrick Henry. It's going to be an ugly game. That's really all I got for this one because I don't want to, drag on too much about a game that there will probably be 30 total points scored.
Yeah. Only thing, I'm excited to see if Will Levis can provide something. I think we've seen from Malik Willis that he really can't through the air. Ryan Tannehill just looks old. I mean, just from a fan perspective of football, I'm excited to see if Will Levis can actually move the ball a little bit, but it's going to be a tough game to do so.
I can't say I'm excited about any facet of that Tennessee Titans offense. I'm just hoping that soon I get the news that Derrick Henry has been traded to my Ravens.
Yeah,
that's the only news out of the Titans that I want.
Yeah. Well, that'll take us to our next game, which is the Eagles going to Washington, D.C., taking on the Commanders. What?
Why'd you say D.C.?
Because and you've been to the East Coast. People on the East Coast will call like Seattle, Washington. They'll say Washington State, and they just call Washington D.C. They just call it Washington. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I said DC because West Coast. Okay, because we're West Coast.
I was just like, why the hell did you say DC?
Because if I just said Washington and someone on the East Coast would be like, okay, whatever.
You're good.
Yeah, but they go to they're gonna take on the Commanders. The Eagles, I'm very excited to start Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, AJ Brown. Now here's where I'm gonna make the flip flop. Last time against the Commanders, Devontae Smith had a very solid game. Dallas Goedert did not. And I think it's going to be like that again. I think you have to start Goedert at this point, but I think it's going to be a Devontae Smith week. And we haven't seen this season both of them be able to have very solid weeks. Obviously, you're going to have to roll the dice on both of them. They're just on such a great offense.
Big A.J. Brown week, baby.
It's definitely going to be A.J. Brown week. I mean, the Commanders are 27th against the pass and 23rd against the run.
5 games in a row over 125 yards for A.J. Brown.
Yeah, and it'll probably continue. This game is not going to be as close as that last one was. I don't think the Commanders are going to stick with the Eagles like that again. Obviously, we're going to have to see. But with the Eagles, you know the guys you're starting. It is very obvious. I don't even have to go too in-depth into it. It's just, you just know who you're starting. The Commanders side of the ball is a bit more tricky. With no buys this week, obviously, I don't like the Sam Howell start against the Eagles. Brian Robinson, I am avoiding this week, especially the Eagles are the best against the rush. They give up 63 yards a game on the ground total. That's incredible. And if the Eagles take the lead, we've seen Brian Robinson kind of get phased out for Antonio Gibson, and we can see that. I expect to see that a lot more this week. When you get into the receivers, obviously Scary Terry, I like that start. But then when I look at Curtis Samuel, I've liked him, and he's dealing with a foot injury. He's probably going to play. But again, with no buys this week, you probably have a safer option than Curtis Samuel. I don't hate the Curtis Samuel if you have to plug him in as a flex, but more than likely I would hope you have a better option. If you don't and you're in like a 12-man or something like that, even a 10-man dealing with injury, I don't hate the Curtis Samuel. I like him more than Jahan Dotson still, but that's one where that one's right on the border of if you should be starting Curtis Samuel. And then Logan Thomas, at this point, I mean, he's had some really good weeks. He's had some bad weeks. There's probably 10 better fantasy options out there. But again, if they're down and they're having to pass a whole bunch, maybe. But I think there's 10 better options, at least this week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Oh, good God.
What are we getting into?
The battle for New York.
No. Zach Wilson and Tyrod?
The MetLife meltdown.
That's insane. That's insane.
The over-under for this game is, again, 36.5 points. The Jets are favored by 2.5. The Jets offense is scoring 18.8 points per game, 22nd in the league. The Giants offense is scoring 12.1 points per game. They're not even averaging 2 touchdowns. They're dead last in the league. 12.1 points per game.
No.
And they won last week. Yeah, so yeah. I'm not even.
This is an easy one fantasy-wise, though. Now that I think
It
about
is.
it, there's 4 names, 2 on each. That's it.
Yeah, that's why it's like I'm not even gonna get into all the stats because it's pointless. You're starting Brees, Garrett Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
You're starting Darren Waller, Saquon Barkley.
That's
I'd
it.
pretty much just avoid everyone else and
Yeah.
split and see. Like Jalen Hyatt is a guy that's been, over 70% in the last 2 games. I thought Wan'Dale Robinson was going to be the wide receiver one. Very well could end up being Jalen Hyatt. I mean, who knows? But they're playing the Jets. The Jets are giving up 216 passing yards per game, and the Giants are only throwing for 178. So this isn't a week that I want to test out the Jalen Hyatt. If you want to go and stash him, you have the room to stash him. There's guys I'd probably prefer Jalen Hyatt over, I guess, like anyone else on the Giants at this point. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe just wait and see if he goes off. And I mean, honestly, do we really want to stash pieces of the Giants?
No, that's what I was thinking. Even their wide receiver 1 probably isn't going to be as good as a lot of teams' wide receiver 2s.
No, and it's just so inconsistent on a week-to-week basis. What I do like starting is the Jets defense. If you can go out and get them, or if you have them, that's a great start this week.
Yeah.
Maybe even the Giants defense. Honestly, we saw a good showing out of them against the Commanders last week. The defenses could very well be the 2 highest scorers in this game. That's all I got for this one. Don't want to talk anymore about it.
That's insane. I love it. All right, next game in Pittsburgh, Jaguars taking on the Steelers. Because this is my first time, I feel like you've covered the Steelers coming into this because I did not know really. The Steelers' pass defense is 25th in the league and their rush defense is 28th. I did not know the Steelers' defense was that bad. I mean,
they just have a good pass rush. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but
that's the only thing.
But it is pretty terrible. And then
they give up a lot, but they're aggressive, so they get turnovers. That's it.
Yeah, and the Jaguars 31st against the pass, but 4th against the rush. Again, we already covered the injuries, but just want to note a couple big names from this game. Trevor Lawrence, limited, probably going to play. Zay Jones out. Deontay Johnson back at practice with that hamstring. On the Jaguars side of the ball, I like starting Trevor Lawrence this week. I do. I actually saw... Did you see someone say that Travis Etienne's workload this season is what people thought Bijan was going to get? And,
interesting.
Well, because when you get into Travis Etienne, he's rushed the ball at least 15 times in 5 of the 7 games, right? So at least 15 carries. And he's also gotten 5 targets through the air in 4 of the 7 games. Etienne's workload, I did not think it was going to be this severe coming into this season. He is just getting...
I don't know, especially with them drafting Tank Bigsby. It was like, they're doing this to lighten his workload. They're like, no, this is just in case he happens to get injured. We have a guy to fall back on.
Yeah, so I love Etienne. I mean, he's currently the RB3. He has just been incredible this season. With no Zay Jones this week, obviously I really like Christian Kirk. I like Evan Ingram. Calvin Ridley. Are you alive? I don't know.
If there's going to be a week, it'll be
this week. It's this week. You have to start him this week against this Pittsburgh defense. You just have to. And then on the other side of the ball,
And I mean, this is a big game for the Jags. The Steelers defense gives a lot up in the air. I mean, Steelers are 4-2. Jags are 5-2. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
Jags are 5-2.
Yeah, they're 5-2.
Jags are 5-2. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big game.
I can see it being really pass heavy. I can see the Jags wanting to. It really does depend on Trevor Lawrence's health, but we did see him in the
solid
game against the Saints with the knee brace. He was running around and stuff, so I think he'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think it's hard to say the words that I trust Calvin Ridley this week, but
if you've ever trusted him, this is the week to do it.
It's what you drafted him for, so you got to throw him in there.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm full go with all the Jags names: Ingram, Kirk, Ridley, Etienne, Lawrence this week. On the Pittsburgh side of the ball, obviously not Kenny Pickett. I don't like Najee this week because that 80.6 rush yards a game. The Jags are pretty stout against the rush. Jaylen Warren, depending on injuries. Again, Jaylen Warren won't completely burn you. He's not going to get you 15, 20 points, but he's going to get you like a 8 to 12 point week, and you just got to be happy with that. If you can afford that and you're heavy on receiver, I mean...
It was interesting last week to see the turn in the because usually we see Jaylen Warren like out target Najee every week, but Najee actually did out target Jaylen Warren last week. And I mean, if Najee's going to continue to have like 10 more rushing attempts and more targets than Jaylen Warren, well, then we're back to the Najee that. Granted, I would like to see another week of this before I'm exactly comfortable with it, but.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's one of those things. It's just, it's a tough backfield to get a feel of, and it does seem like Najee.
It's not a good week to be deciding between one of the two of them, in my opinion, either.
Yeah, it's gonna be the two guys I feel comfortable starting is George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. I mean, they're just. Yeah, if he plays. And again, Deontay played 66% of snaps last week, saw 6 targets, caught 5 of them for 79 yards. He finished 12.9. It seems like, with him being back at practice, he didn't practice Thursday. We'll see if he's a go, but if Deontay is a go, I like starting him.
So, a question for you regarding that. If Deontay doesn't go, given that we've seen Allen Robinson as the next wide receiver up, say, for example, Cody. Cody put himself in a position where now he doesn't have Chris Godwin to put in. If Deontay doesn't go, would you make that pivot to Allen Robinson or would you look elsewhere? Because the Jags defense is not very good against the pass. And Allen Robinson would be getting that wide receiver 2 role in that game.
I would.
It's a nasty question, but it is valid.
I guess you'd probably have to roll Robinson strictly because they don't even have Freiermuth, and it's like Connor Hayward is not nearly what Pat Freiermuth is, and then if they're not able to run the ball efficiently, also, they're gonna have to do something. I think that's gosh, that's a gross one, but.
It is, but it's like, if you put yourself in that position and you're counting on Deontay now, and you get the notification Sunday morning, at like 9 o'clock, 8:30 that Deontay's not going to go, that's when situations like this come into play. Because at that point, some of the people are either going to be gone because other people have gotten injury notifications and they've picked people up. And if you haven't been proactive by that point, that's what I mean. Like, you're kind of forced into the position where it's like, okay, do I get Allen Robinson or then hence the question.
Yeah. No, I guess, I'd roll Allen Robinson and just pray. Yeah, pray at that point. But I mean,
that's ugly, but
yeah, that's all I had for that game. I don't know if you had anything else to add to it.
No, that'll be it. Just that last question, kind of wondering what you were thinking about that. My next one, the Rams are heading into Dallas to take on the Cowboys. The over-under is 45 in this one. Dallas is favored by 6.5 points. The Rams are currently scoring 22.1 points per game, and the Cowboys are scoring 25.7. Rams are passing for 253 yards per game. Dallas only 210. It's funny because Dallas is passing for 210 yards per game, and the Rams are giving up 209. So it kind of fits perfectly. And the same with the rushing. Dallas is rushing for 119, and the Rams are giving up 117. So basically, like everything Dallas has been doing up to this point is exactly what the Rams are giving up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. Honestly, I'm starting all my Cowboys in this one. One that I'm particularly interested in is Jake Ferguson because the Rams are 30th against the tight end. And, Jake Ferguson's had some down weeks, but just given how weak the Rams are against that position, I think he comes in, has a fairly big game. He's projected 9 points right now. I think he could end up beating that.
Yeah.
We've seen the Rams be successful against the pass, although we saw Deontay Johnson and George Pickens have fairly good games against them last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding on to Brandon Cooks right now. Michael Gallup also worth holding on to. I don't know if I'd start either one of them this week. I would really prefer to wait and see if, Brandon Cook's performance in week 6 kind of leads to him taking that wide receiver 2 role that we thought he would have at the beginning of the season, or if it's going to stay with Michael Gallup and he's just going to drop 10 targets.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of holding on and seeing which one of them takes that role over. Obviously, you're starting Tony Pollard. It's an every week start at this point. You shouldn't even question it. He's off the bye. You're rolling him. If he burns you, so what? It happens.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb, another one, same exact thing. Talked about Dak Prescott in this one, how I like starting him. He's coming off of his best game of the year before the bye. I think, we saw Kenny Pickett pass for 230 and rush for a touchdown. I think that Dak will have some success in a game that the Cowboys do need to win. I mean, the Eagles if they win against the Commanders, that'll be another division win, and they're gaining traction. The Cowboys have to keep up, so I think they're going to be foot on the gas. It's going to be a good game for the Cowboys offense. Brandon Aubrey, if you have him, you're starting. I like starting the Cowboys defense in this one.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the Steelers get to Stafford a couple times. We know the Cowboys like to blitz. They're an aggressive defense. I think they should have a decent day. Going on to the Rams side of the ball, it's very obvious you're starting Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Matt Stafford, no. The Cowboys have a good defense. I mean, they've been giving up a decent amount, like only 177 through the air.
Mm-hmm.
So given we just haven't seen Stafford pass for touchdowns. The volume's been there, but I can't trust him against this defense. I really would not prefer to start either of the Rams running backs, Royce Freeman or Darrell Henderson. The Cowboys are only giving up 111 rush yards per game, which, we saw them not split evenly exactly, but we still did see Royce Freeman get double-digit carries, and it's not like Darrell Henderson was catching a whole bunch out of the backfield either. Tyler Higbee, no.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be a tough game on the ground for the Rams. But Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, obviously. And then
every week.
Yeah, no, that's a simple game. And really that might be the case for this next game as well.
Some of these games this week are really cut and dry.
Yeah, no, they are. I guess one of these, like the Patriots at Dolphins. Starting with the Patriots side of the ball. I'm only looking at 2 guys. I'm looking at Mostert and I'm looking at Kendrick Bourne. Or Mostert. I'm looking at Ramondre and I'm looking at Kendrick Bourne.
You threw me way off.
Like Mostert's on the Patriots
now.
now.
You're talking about now.
Yeah. Mondre, Kendrick Bourne. Mondre has back-to-back double-digit weeks. He also got double digits the first time they played the Dolphins. I like firing up Mondre. Kendrick Bourne, again, back-to-back double-digit weeks, 19.3 and then 16.3. He's the only receiving threat there, fantasy-wise and real football-wise.
If you want to get real nasty and start Zeke, I don't really see a reason to this week, given you should have all your running backs. You should have all your running backs, but we have been seeing Zeke get volume near the goal line, and the Dolphins' defense hasn't been particularly stout or anything. So
yeah, Zeke scored 11 and 9 the past 2 weeks because he's gotten in the end zone both the 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's like the Latavius Murray for the Patriots, except he's actually
better than Latavius Murray.
He does.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, Patriots side of the ball, I feel like that's the only real option. Dolphins are 20th against pass, 19th against rush. I feel like it doesn't matter that much. I'm still not, sold. Patriots had a very good week against the Bills. But am I sold on them? No.
A guy that I've seen a whole bunch of people say to watch out for, and I guess he's worth keeping an eye on, Demario Douglas.
Yeah.
I'm not... I feel like if you're in a 10-man league, it's just, unless you have a super deep bench, it's just not, it's too shallow to roster a guy like that. But if we do see him, I mean, if he takes over Kendrick Bourne's position, which, I mean, if we're being honest, shouldn't be that hard.
Devontae Parker?
You mean Dust Parker?
Well, you said Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah. Kendrick Bourne's the wide receiver 1, technically.
No, yeah. You're saying if Demario Douglas takes that over?
Yeah, which, I mean, you can't say there's a skill gap there.
No. Okay, well, something worth noting, Juju has missed the past 2 weeks, and that's when we saw Demario Douglas actually play snaps. His first 5 weeks, his highest snap share was 41, then 8, 24, 33. He's a guy to keep an eye on. I just don't know how much he'll be integrated in.
The only thing about it is it's like how we talk about with the rookies is when you see them start popping off and is around this time through the end of the season. So they did, I mean, we've seen the way the Patriots have treated the receivers they've drafted. So, but the difference is they're trying to integrate Demario Douglas into this offense.
Yeah.
And they have tried before. Like, he's fumbled, and even though he's fumbled, they still keep going back to him. So I think he has at least a shot in earning that number 1 position, because if we're being honest, Kendrick Bourne, he's not that great.
No.
He's really not. And
it's definitely worth
no
keeping
diss
an
to
eye
him,
on.
but yeah, that's all I'm saying, is a guy that, if we're keeping an eye on Jalen Hyatt, we got to keep an eye on Demario Douglas.
Yeah. No, 100% agree with that. And then, I mean, that's it for the Pats.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Dolphins, your guys. I know Tua, I don't know. I mean, he had 13 the last time he played the Patriots. He's coming off 11-point week.
Yeah, I mean, so the difficult thing about it is, obviously, if you bench 2 and he goes off, you're going to kick yourself. But I mean, the only other options I really like this week, I mean, if you can go out and get Dak Prescott, I'd start him over Tua this week, I think, and that's it.
Yeah. So, okay, then more than likely, you're having to roll Tua. He's still on the Dolphins. They still could go crazy this week, obviously.
The one thing that sucks about Tua is if you notice, he has no rushing upside compared to some of these other top quarterbacks.
No, he does not. He has the big plays to Tyreek.
Yeah, he won't get the those goal line touchdowns ever. You won't see him get the rushing touchdowns. He'll hardly ever have any. It's just an interesting.
Yeah.
Because when, like Lamar, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts have bad passing games, they could still fall back on that. But Tua has a bad passing game.
Yeah. Aaron Jones was just upgraded to healthy.
And Justin Fields was officially ruled out. Why the hell did it take so long?
I don't know.
Like, we knew this all week. Why do they wait so long?
Yeah.
Whatever.
So Raheem's questionable still. He was limited Thursday with that ankle. First time against the Patriots, 25.7, had a huge game. If he plays, I expect him to have another huge game, but Jeff Wilson is expected to see more touches in week 8 as he ramps up. Salvon Ahmed will continue to ramp down, so it's going to be Jeff Wilson and Mostert as those two lead backs. We're going to have to monitor Mostert as the game gets closer. If he does play, I do like the Mostert start.
Yeah.
Tyreek and Waddle. That's it. Tyreek and Waddle. It's the only guys I trust there. Those two, Mostert, Tua. It's obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
That's it. I mean, you know.
It's very simple. Honestly, same with my last morning game. Texans take. Actually, there's a little bit of nuance with this one. So Texans are going into Carolina to take on the Panthers. Over/under is 43.5. Houston's favored by 3. The Texans offense is actually doing really good. They're scoring 22.5 points per game, passing for 258.5, which is 6th in the league. To see that from a Houston Texans offense being 6th in the league, wow. It's just wow. And they're only rushing for 88.8 per game. So that's why Dameon Pierce has been very down.
Mm-hmm.
We actually saw in the last game that Dameon Pierce was outproduced and outsnapped by Devin Singletary, making Devin Singletary an interesting option for this week. I mean, obviously, you kind of have to start Dameon Pierce, but they're going up against the Panthers defense that is giving up 144 rushing yards per game, which is 31st in the league.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're in a bad situation this week, I don't hate the Devin Singletary start.
Yeah.
Just because, but I'd much prefer to pick him up and stash him just to see if he does end up kind of taking over the backfield. Like I said, we know he's a skilled running back. We've seen what he did in Buffalo. He was good for fantasy for a lot of weeks in Buffalo. So, I mean, he has the skill to take over if Damian Harris isn't going to do anything and continue to be extremely inefficient. And this is probably a game that we will see if that determination is made.
Yeah.
As far as the pass catchers, the Panthers are giving up 197 through the air, which is 9th in the league. It's not necessarily deterring me from, I'm still starting Nico Collins. Tank Dell, I think it's okay to start him this week. He's coming off of missing 2 weeks from that concussion. But I mean, we've seen how productive he's been in this offense. I think he could be a very good start. And just even though they're going up against the Panthers defense, which is second worst in the league against the run, they've just been so inefficient on the ground. I think they might end up relying a little bit more on the pass game.
Yeah.
Therefore, Collins, Dell, Dalton Schultz should all be really good in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Panthers side of the ball is fairly simple, or at least you'd like to think that, because up until a while, I mean, it was like, okay, you're starting Miles Sanders and Chuba's doing well, and then Miles Sanders misses the week and Chuba does very good, and then they go on bye. So Miles Sanders is coming back healthy in his terms.
I don't like either of them. It's going to be a tough one. Maybe Chuba.
I mean, Houston's giving up 108 rush yards on the ground. Miles Sanders has been extremely inefficient on the ground this game. We've seen Chuba just be better. But one thing that we know about a lot of these teams is when they pay a guy more money, like how we saw with Zeke and the Cowboys, that also had to do with how much the Cowboys were loyal to and loved Zeke with the whole. And it might not be the same with Miles Sanders because this is his first year, but they still did pay him a lot of money. So they might still end up trying to get a lot of work out of him, which is going to make it difficult, like you said, to start either one of these guys. Yeah. I mean, if you have to, I guess I don't hate it, but it's another backfield that I'd like to prefer to wait and see because it's up in the air, just like the Houston backfield, the Carolina Panthers backfield's up in the air. And then you're starting Adam Thielen, and that's it.
Yeah.
You can watch DJ Chark, and I've heard a lot about Terrace Marshall being a trade candidate, but we'll see about that. We'll see if he ends up going anywhere. Not really watching him anyways, but if you want to watch Mingo and Chark, then that's fine. Tight ends, we know, are dust in Carolina after week 1, and that will be it for my morning games.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And then I got 2 more. I'll get through them pretty quickly. Well, first one being the Saints going to Indy, taking on the Colts. Starting with the Saints' offensive side of the ball, the Colts are 19th against the pass, 232 yards a game, 21st against the rush, 118. Obviously, I love Alvin Kamara. I am curious to see what Jamal Williams' role looks like this game, but no matter what it is, and going forward, I'm still going to love Alvin Kamara every week. Chris Olave. Michael Thomas is, what we've seen from him, is a very safe flex play. He's not like, if you're in a 2-receiver league, he shouldn't be one of your top 2 receivers. But if you're in a 3-receiver or something like that, he's a safe flex play. You know he's not going to completely kill you. He's not going to go out of his way and win you a fantasy week, but he will not burn you.
5-6 catches, 42 yards.
Yep. He's going to get you 9 to 11 points, and you're going to be happy with it because that's exactly what you expected. Taysom Hill limited. He's one of those ones I am curious to see his involvement this week. I think he very well could finish as a top 10 fantasy tight end. That's if he plays. We've known him to...
It seems they're getting Juwan Johnson back this week too.
Yeah, Juwan Johnson's limited with his calf. He's been out, for a while. So we're going to see involvement. So it's kind of a shaky one there. But yeah, the Saints have their obvious starters. I like Rashid Shaheed, but with no buys this week, I don't like starting him in your lineup. Unless you're just heavily injured. But yeah. Colts side of the ball, it's going to be Gardner Minshew the rest of the way through. Zach Moss was limited Thursday, elbow and heel. I think this is going to be the week Jonathan Taylor really steps forward. The Saints have a very strong defense. They're 4th against the pass, 187 yards, only giving up 98.7 yards on the ground. But I like starting Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss, it's weird because they've both been involved with catches out of the backfield, so we'll have to see. But the Saints do have a solid defense. They make games uglier than they need to be for whatever reason. And they're off. It's just tough. Zach Moss, I'm not completely sold on this week. It depends. I like Zach Moss more than I like it's crazy to say, but like a Damian Pierce or a Jalen Warren this week. He has a higher upside at this point, but his downside could be.
Yeah.
It's a tough week. It's a tough one.
It is.
Because you have all your options there.
I'm going to keep it 100. I'm starting Amari DiMercato. That's what, yeah. That's how much I trust all the rest of these guys.
Yeah.
I'm starting DiMercato.
Yeah, no, it's just a tough week. And then receivers, I like Josh Downs a lot. I like Michael Pittman this week only because we see when receivers are like, I'm your number 1 guy, get me the ball more. And they do so. Now, something that's scary with this one is he's going to have Marshawn Lattimore on him, who is a very good corner. But yeah, Josh Downs is going to thrive this game. Michael Pittman, he's one of those guys, I feel like talent alone, and Minshew does pass the ball, whether it's efficiently. Yeah.
A lot. He
so
chucks that thing because they're always down because he's always throwing damn interceptions.
Yeah, so it's just
they have to throw the ball.
I like Pittman. I like Josh Downs. The tight ends, it seems. He's actually downgraded to out. Kylan Granson will miss this week. that
Well, I
makes
thought you
sense.
were talking about Josh Downs.
No. Kyler Granson will miss,
I
so
was
it's going to
like, oh
be
no.
Ogletree and Allie Cox. Don't like either of those. I mean, it's pretty plain and dry with this matchup, other than the Zach Moss. But I'm going to leave that up to you. I personally do not like starting him this week.
I'm gonna agree with you there.
Yeah. And then, do you have anything else for that one, or we cover this last one real quick?
No, yeah, take it away.
Okay, the last one, the Vikings traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Division matchup. This one's going to be very interesting. The Vikings offense looked horrendous against the Bears. Then they played the Niners and said, maybe the
They
Niners.
remember how to play football.
Yeah, it just, I could not believe it. Kirk Cousins, 22 fantasy points last week. Do I like starting him this week?
Sure.
Yeah, fire him up because, yeah, fire him up. The Packers are 8th against the pass.
I mean, what the hell, man? You never know what he's gonna do.
Yeah,
it's so annoying. You just have to. I mean,
you just have to hope he's screaming you like that at the end of the game in the locker room. I mean, you just don't know. But he's a boomer bust quarterback at this point, which is kind of weird to say. But when he's on, Kirk Cousins is very good. The Packers are 30th against the rush. I like starting Madison this week. I know Cam Akers kind of cut into it a little bit. San Francisco's rush defense is a lot better than the Packers. Packers giving up 143, dang near 144 yards. I like starting Madison. It's kind of a gross one. Depends what your running back room looks like. But I do like the Madison start, the Jordan Addison start. You're not sold on the Madison?
I'm seeing a lot of hype around Cam Akers this week, given that he was more efficient, yada yada. It's another one of those where we're halfway through the season and it's like there's this up in the air who's gonna end up being the RB1 in this backfield, and I just don't feel comfortable starting it. It's so hard to, like, I will say, like with DeMercado, I'd feel comfortable because he's at least led the backfield in snaps the last 3 weeks. He didn't get, the carries 2 weeks ago, but it seems that they've made their decision. That's where they planted their flag until. So we have some knowing there. The rest of it, it's like we don't know what the head coaches are going to do halfway through the game.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just like so irritating because I just don't know. Nobody knows. And you start the wrong one, like how if you started Keontae Ingram last week based on what you thought you saw the week before.
Didn't even play.
You start one. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and like actually recommend starting like a Cam Akers or tell you to start Devin Singletary because I could tell you that and it just goes the complete opposite way. We don't know what the coaches are thinking. This is just based on the trends that we have seen. And so, yeah.
No, I absolutely agree. And then, I mean, receiving room, you're obviously starting Jordan Addison. KJ Osborne, since Justin Jefferson has gotten injured, 9.9, 8.8, 9.7. He is a slight downgrade from like a Michael Thomas. You know what you're going to get. He's not going to burn you completely, but he's probably not going to win you a game either.
How about Brandon Powell?
Yeah, Brandon Powell's interesting to me because his first game where he got 31% of snaps, 9.26 targets. His second game against Chicago, but that was a bad week for them overall. 3 catches for 20 yards on 4 targets. Then against San Francisco, 61% of snaps, 10.9 fantasy points, 4 catches, 64. I like Brandon Powell. He is another one of those guys where I put him on that like fringe, like should he be rostered? He's definitely worth monitoring, 100%. I'm not completely sold on if he should be rostered because he's a number 3 receiver, but he's shown flashes. He's definitely a serviceable wide receiver. And I mean, a reason why I'm not completely sold on him is when your tight end is TJ Hawkinson. That's getting.
Oh yeah, they treat him like how the Saints treat Alvin Kamara.
Yeah. So I mean, TJ Hawkinson's an obvious start.
I don't think I've ever seen more dump offs to a tight end.
No.
It's like, where the hell's TJ?
Yeah. For a
What the hell,
tight
TJ?
end that he's gotten 2 touchdowns, which were both against Philadelphia. He's gotten double digits every single week, except for one without a touchdown. So that speaks for itself. He's an obvious start every single week. The other side of the ball, Jordan Love, I don't like
Jordan.
starting this week. We've seen him kind of not necessarily fizzle out. I mean, he finished Denver with 16.3. It's not terrible, but by no means is it great. I don't like the Jordan Love start. Aaron Jones, as of 16 minutes ago. Did you see it?
It's like what we. Hold on, no.
Aaron Jones
is he good?
He is good. He's going to go into the game with no injury designation. Sorry. Go ahead about Jordan Love.
Oh, I needed that in guillotine.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I don't think it's like what we talked. If you're in a 10-man league and you just look at it, I don't think Jordan Love has a top 10 finish this week, so you shouldn't be starting.
Yeah. No, it's that simple. Like, that's the crazy part. Like, it's just that simple. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna just take a rough look at something like the quarterbacks, if you're in a 10-man league, do I think this guy finishes top 10 this week? Same with tight ends, kickers, defense. The rest, running backs and receivers, you can't really do that. But
yeah, and then okay, to touch on Aaron Jones, finished with him. Matt LaFleur said Aaron Jones is at 100%. It's what Matt LaFleur said. So, Aaron Jones, no injury designation coming into the game. I'm firing him up. That's just what it is. The Vikings are a very mid-level defense, 17th against the pass, 15th against the rush. I'm firing Aaron Jones up. You have to. If he says he's 100%, I'm rolling with him. That means A.J. Dillon going back to the bench.
let me withdraw this trade offer real quick.
Christian Watson participated in individual drills yesterday. It seems like he avoided a serious injury to his knee, which is very good news.
This is a very good.
Yeah. So Christian Watson, I like starting him this week. Romeo Doubs it's just weird because he saw 12 and 13 targets in back-to-back games and was pretty efficient with those targets. And then these past 2 with Christian Watson back, he saw 4 targets and 5 targets. He has 3 catches for 34 yards in 2 weeks with a touchdown. I am not starting him this week. I just don't feel comfortable. He very well could just burn you. Jaden Reed has shown very good flashes as well. But again, he's not someone I'm thinking about starting this week. And then Luke Musgrave did not practice yesterday. He is questionable going in. There's probably 10 fantasy tight ends that will finish better than him, even if he does play not practicing Thursday. They haven't given us clarification on today just yet. I don't feel comfortable putting him in there if he's, not practicing much leading up to the game.
Yeah.
But, that's it. Aaron Jones is back. Supposedly he's 100%. He's 100%.
We'll see. Yeah, head coaches lie. We know that.
Yeah.
We'll see that. But yeah, that'll be it for this episode, guys. We will be back with the next one covering all of the rest of the games. And like we say every time, thank you for the support. Any comments, questions, whatever you may have, comment below. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. All of those will be posted in our description.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're here for you guys. Anything you need. Derek?
Come back and take more reps with the first team. Till next time.